Hey Guardians, welcome back to another video. Going to show you my Strand Warlock build. This thing is strong and OP as heck. So, here's how the gameplay footage works. The gameplay loop is we're going to consume a grenade first, and then just open up. As you can see, these little green bursts are our strand. And what they do is they can suspend our enemies and just totally destroy the battlefield. And of course our exotic of choice we're using is the Striga, compared with our exotic armor piece, the necrotic grips. So with these two things together, it just makes for an awesome, strong build. So since we are low on grenade energy, how we have our build set up here, we're going to pop our healing rift. And as you can see, our grenade has come back almost 75%, almost full. And as you can tell, when you hit that healing rift, threadlings come out and help us with DPS. So what we're going to do is just continue to clear ads. Grenade is back, so we consume a grenade and rinse and repeat. Guardians, this build is amazing. I like to use it as more of a support role to help out my fellow fire team, but you can try and use this as a more of a gung-ho DPS build. I don't recommend it because I'm not much of a DPS, more of a conservative player. I don't like to go in and just balls the wall crazy with everything, but if that's more your play style, have at it and give it a shot. And as you can see, we're spreading that poison, spreading our strand. It is just making these guys fall left and right. So, I see grenade is almost back, so we're going to pop rift. Threadlings come out. Boom, night is gone. Okay, grenade is back. I'm going to consume all over again. See, this is just amazing, guys. I hope you will give this thing a shot. It is so much fun. It has made me enjoy playing Warlock that much more. And here in a little bit, we're going to go into the full build details and show you how you can get this for yourself. So with Striga, necrotic grips, as you know, Striga is a weapon of sorrow. It is one of two weapons of sorrow. The other one is Thorn. You can use Thorn with this build, but I feel like Striga has a better DPS output potential than the others. So with Striga, if you remember, Striga has its catalyst, which is almost like subsistence, where the more kills you get, it reloads your magazine. So that is extremely nice in this build. So go down here, pop healing rift, boom. Throw an arcane needle. Look at that, grenade is back. Wizarding Sand Chance. So this particular build is just, like I've said, it's just so much fun. It is fantastic. I love playing with this on my Strand Warlock. And I just threw my grenade. What it does, not only will it suspend, bosses won't suspend, but it gives them a debuff. And that is Needle Storm, the super, and it just decimates, destroys. And these green bursts you're seeing is from the necrotic grips. It is bursting poison damage, which also is a tick damage over time. Hop down here, pop rift. Grenade is back. Beautiful. Alright, let's get into the build and show you how this all comes together, gang. So this is the Broodweaver Warlock, Strand Warlock. Special we're using is Needle Storm. Needle Storm is a very, very effective DPS super. I think it's one of the better supers for a Warlock. What this does is when you proc Needle Storm, you throw needles at your enemies, they become threadlings and they all explode simultaneously, creating that burst DPS damage, and they will seek out your enemies. Our class ability we're using is Healing Rift. With Healing Rift, of course, we use it for our survivability. Next, we're using a Burst Glide. Melee is Arcane Needle, which Arcane Needle comes with 2 stacks of it, so you can use it twice before it needs to go on cooldown. And then the grenade of choice is a Shotgun Grenade. With the Shotgun Grenade, you can consume it like I was doing, and you can do the Osteostriga route. Or if you just throw it at a single target, what it'll do, it'll kind of do that burst, and then surrounding enemies caught in that burst will all be suspended in the air. So this makes it to the point where you mitigate the battlefield for you and your fire team, and you make it so much easier in crowd control all in one. Also, the nice thing with this build, and shotgun grenades for that point, is all sorts of champions you come across in harder difficulties, you can suspend them with this. It renders them useless. My most hated champion is the Unstoppable Champions, which, of course, you can use your mods to stun them and whatnot. But let's say you forgot to put on your weapon to stun them. With this build, you can throw your shotgun grenade at them, suspend them up in the air. Hey, look, they're not coming at you anymore. They're not doing anything. Just open up on them, destroy them, take them out. You can do this with unstops. You can do this with anti-barrier champions, as long as the anti-barrier champion does not have the barrier up. Because if you try with the barrier up, it's not going to work. And your overload champions, it will suspend them all. So we'll get into our aspects. Mind Spun Invocation, which what this does, it enhances your grenade functionality, which since we're using the Shackle Grenade, as when you consume your grenade, it activates the Weaver's Trance. The final blows with Weaver's Trance is activated and it suspends your enemies. So when we consume that grenade, we get that Weaver's Trance, and then when we get those kills with Striga, it spreads the poison, but it also spreads the suspend. So you can just take like an crowded battlefield of ads, pop your consumer grenade, hit them with Striga, string them all up. The poison and the suspend, it just wipes them out, no problem. Fragments, Thread of Continuity, which suspend, unravel, and sever effects applied to your targets have an increased duration. It gives us a strength plus 10. Thread of Evolution, Threadlings travel further and deal additional damage. It gives us an intellect of 10. So if you remember with our Healing Rift, when we hit our Healing Rift, 3 Threadlings will come out and help us continue that DPS. So we've essentially turned our Healing Rift into an offensive mechanism rather than a defensive mechanism. Thread of Warding, picking up Orbs of Power, grant Woven Mail. It gives us a minus 10 in resilience, but you won't even notice it with our mod suite. Next is the Thread of Mind. Defeating suspended targets grants class ability energy. So you will not really have to worry about your Rift being on cooldown for very long, because when you defeat these targets that are all suspended, you're constantly generating that energy. Weapons we like to use, like I've been talking about, is of course the exotic Osteostriga. Osteostriga is it's an outstanding SMG. I've got it ever since Witch Queen, which it is just phenomenal. With Osteostriga, you absolutely want to get the Catalyst, because what happens is the Catalyst acts as subsistence, which subsistence, once upon defeating targets, returns ammunition to your magazine. But with Striga, it does it so fast that you're filling the magazine and you're overloading the magazine, because Striga comes with a base of 27 in the mag, but once you proc its Catalyst, you're like 98, 100 rounds in that mag, and you can just mow down whatever's in front of you. Next weapon I like to use is the Glaciocasm. Glaciocasm is a weapon from the Dawning event. It is a Void fusion rifle. It is a high impact frame rifle, which I love these particular frames on fusion rifles. Yes, they fire slowly, but they deal so much more damage. Also with this is when you are standing still with this particular fusion rifle, it is very accurate and just packs a punch. Perks I like to run on mine are going to be Subsistence. Like I said, defeating enemies will refill your magazine. And High Impact Reserves. Rounds at the end of the magazine are going to deal more damage. And of course the Origin trait, which is Omelon Fluid Dynamics, which is this weapon has increased reload speed and stability for the top half of the mag. I like to throw on a major spec, so it'll help me take out more of those orange bars and do more damage towards our mini bosses, yellow bars. And it has a range masterwork. I would prefer this to have an impact masterwork, but with how the impact is almost maxed out, range is the second best choice. My personal favorite and heavy weapon of choice is the Avalanche. Avalanche is a solar LMG that you can acquire from the Dawning event, which the Dawning event is, if you don't know, the Dawning event is around Christmas every year and New Year's. With this particular LMG, I like to run a flared magwell because it will give me more slightly increased stability and a faster reload speed. The auto-loading holster is very nice because when you have this thing holstered, you are going to generate your ammo back, so you don't have to constantly reload it. You can just, once you run out, swap to another weapon, use that one for a while, come back to Avalanche, it'll be reloaded before you're ready to go. Now, when I'm in boss DPS phases, or when I'm fighting a boss, I will use the Vorpal, which Vorpal gives you increased damage against bosses and vehicles. And if you bring it in a Crucible, you can do increased damage to Guardians. But if I'm not fighting against them, and I'm just rank and file enemies, your red bars, orange, and mini bosses, I'm going to throw an Incandescent. Because Incandescent, what it does is when you defeat a target, it spreads Scorch. It makes bigger booms, clears out rooms, no problem. Very nice to have. Running a boss spec on it with a range masterwork. I would prefer it to be an impact masterwork, but we play with the cards we're dealt, right? And our exotic of choice, the Necrotic Grips, which Necrotic Grips, I can't stress this enough, Guardians, it is a fabulous exotic to have. With the armor perk Grasp of the Devourer, which is when you're damaging combatants, you poison them, and it deals a tick damage over time. Also, once these enemies are defeated, the poison will spread to other nearby enemies. So with Necrotic Grips combined with Osteostriga, you are spreading poison, you are spreading your suspend when you consume that shackle grenade, and you are controlling the battlefield no problem. Now what we're looking for in our stats is I would go for 100 resilience and 100 discipline in this build, because with 100 resilience you get the 30% damage reduction, which even though I got a slight nerf in Lightfall from 40% to 30%, 30% is still very strong. And of course we want 100 for our discipline so we can get our grenades back that much quicker. Now we're getting our suite of mods here. In the helmet, I am running a resilience with kinetic siphon, which kinetic siphon is when you with rapid kinetic final blows, you create orbs of power. So with Osteostriga, it is considered a kinetic weapon. So when I get those final blows with it, I'm creating those orbs of power. I like to run double Ashes to Assets. The reason being is I gain bonus super energy on my grenade kills, and with multiple copies of this, I'm getting a more potent effect. On our Necrotic Grips, I'm running a Resilience mod, double Impact Induction, which causing damage with a melee attack reduces my grenade cooldown. So as you saw in my gameplay footage, when my grenade was on cooldown, I popped my Healing Rift, it'd bring it back to about maybe 75%. But if I use my melee on top of that, that will top off getting that grenade that much quicker. And as you remember, with that melee, you have 2 stacks of it. So you can throw it once, you still have it for next time, and it's going to start recharging. Very useful, very handy. Last mod I like to use is Focusing Strike. which it grants class ability energy when you damage with the melee attack. So not only am I helping getting my grenade back, I'm helping getting my rift back. So as you can see, everything is interlaced and tied together very nicely to where using one ability will help the others that are on cooldown. So we are back to ability spam builds. You know guys, I love to use these because pre-Lightfall I was all about it. And with Lightfall, since the build crafting has changed, I've had to tinker with it for a while, and I believe I've got it down. In the chest, I'm running a discipline mod with just resistance mods. With this build, I'm more up close and personal. It's more close quarters combat. So I'm going to run a concussive dampener, which it reduces incoming area of effect damage from combatants, which all that means is enemies that can do like a splash damage, like Cabal, Knights, well, I call them Boomer Knights, but they shoot their arc grenades at you. This will mitigate that damage towards you. Next is a melee damage resistance. With this, I tend to find myself getting meleeed a lot since I'm up in everyone's face. This helps mitigate that damage as well. Last but not least is a harmonic resistance, which since harmonic resistance will shoot, since I am the Strand subclass, this will help me with resisting Strand incoming damage. Next on the boots, I'm running a discipline mod, double recuperation, because with recuperation is when you pick up Orb of Power, it's going to start replenishing your health. So this in turn is going to aid to our survivability and make us that much stronger. And then a kinetic weapon surge. Kinetic weapon surge is when you get an armor charge, it will increase the damage of our Osteostriga, which is again a kinetic weapon, and it just makes it for that much more powerful. On the band, or our class mod, we are going to do Resilience, Reaper, which after using your class ability, your next weapon final blow is going to spawn our Orbs of Power. So as you can see, we spawn in those Orbs of Power. We're going to get our health back. We're going to make our Osteostriga stronger. Back in business. And lastly, Double Bomber, which it reduces grenade cooldown each time using our class ability. So as you saw in the gameplay, when my grenade was low, cast that rift, it brought it up to 75%. Use a melee, that's going to bring it back even more, 100%. Your grenade's back, ready to go again. Alright Guardians, that is my Strand Warlock build. I hope you all give it a try. By all means, tinker with it, suited to your playstyle. Also, I really appreciate a like, a subscribe. It really helps me and the channel out because I love to bring you guys quality Destiny videos. And as always, Guardians, stay safe.